Hey everybody, it's GauntletX, and welcome back to another premiere draft of the Lost Caverns of Ixalan. Without further ado, let's get into the draft. We've got a super great opening pack. We're going to start with the Thousand Moon Smithy, the excellent rare. This is going to give us 2 permanents off the 1 spell, the artifact itself, and this gnome token that has power and toughness equal to the number of artifacts and creatures you control. So it synergizes with itself, putting those 2 permanents on the board, but it's really good for the red-white archetype that has a bunch of cards that come with map tokens or treasure tokens or anything like that to get a super wide board state, and has plenty of cards like the bottom of this artifact that wants you to tap a bunch of your permanents to do something great. So with this one, if we can flip this every time that we cast an artifact or creature, we get to also produce another gnome soldier, and it's really hard to lose if you flip into the Barracks of the Thousand. So this, alongside cards like Plundering Pirate that are putting multiple permanents on the board off of 1 spell, makes for a really explosive deck. So very happy to start with Thousand Moon Smithy, but the pack's incredible. It's also got Geological Appraiser, one of the best uncommons in the format, and Miner's Guidewing is a super great white spell. Just a beautiful pack there all around. For pack 1, pick number 2, we've got some reasonable options in white. The Market Gnome I've always thought is a little narrow. I've never been overly impressed by it when my opponents run it, and I don't think I've really played it that often at all. The Attentive Sunscribe is pretty solid for its mana cost, a 2-mana 2/2 with the relevant card type of artifact, and it has a good ability whenever it becomes tapped for any of your tapper stuff and just attacking. There's an Idol of the Deep King, which is decent removal for the red-white archetype because you get to... I mean, it's a little inefficient. 3 mana for 2 damage is not great, but you get to leave this permanent on the board. Plus, it works well with flyers later in the game where you turn it into the equipment, get some extra damage in. So I think Idol's actually really reasonable in this archetype, so is the Sunscribe. Those are honestly my favorite cards in this pack. I don't think anything here is strong enough to push off of the Thousand Moon Smithy, except actually Deep Cavern Bat. Deep Cavern Bat is actually the best card in this pack by a lot. I just really dislike black-white as an archetype, but maybe if white gets super cut, we can go into a different black archetype, my favorites being black-green and black-blue. The Deep Cavern Bat is a really good piece of hand disruption to ruin your opponent's plans, so it is probably worth the speculation there, even if I don't want to end up in black-white specifically. Pick 3, we've got a Sunfire, Torch, and a Rumbling Rockslide. For some more filler red removal spells, bigger fan of the Torch because it hits synergies well by being a permanent that sticks on the board, and when you use it as removal, you've also got an artifact in your grave for craft with artifact cards, so I like this a lot better than Rockslide. Got a Scampering Surveyor for slower decks. It's a really good value play. There's a Sunscribe and a Hammer, which are both fine for red-white tapper decks, but not super exciting. Really, once again, not a particularly exciting pack. It's Torch, Hammer, or Sunscribe, or Surveyor for like a slower deck for like the Deep Cavern Bat kind of grind fest, if we go for that. Let's stick to white with the Smithy here. Let's grab a Sunscribe, I guess. Pick number 4. Dreadmaw's Ire is probably the best card. There are so many good artifacts in this format that this almost always has a target, and it's not that hard to get to use this as a combat trick to both win the fight against your opponent's blocker and blow up an additional card, blowing up one of their artifacts, so it just becomes mega shatter in those scenarios, and everything else in the pack is kind of weak and narrow. This might be a difficult draft pod here. All the good cards seem to be getting scooped up real fast, unless these packs are just really bad. But we might just have some fierce competition with everybody just taking the best cards in each pack and staying really open, so it'll be hard to find the right colors to be in here. Pick 5, Petrify in white is excellent to go with our Thousand Moon Smithies, just good removal on color. We've got a Myco Tyrant as well, which is a pretty fun build around, but it is quite far away from a double white rare. We're not really going to be white, green, black. This is not a super multicolored format. So Petrify, it'll be. First pack I've been pretty happy with in a while, and I'm also pretty happy to see a Plundering Pirate pick 6. This works really well in the red-white, just a bunch of permanents kind of deck that the Thousand Moon Smithy would fit super well into. It's really decent black spells too if we want to just take deadweight towards black-white, but again, I have really never been impressed by black-white. Those 2 colors together just don't feel like they synergize extra well. The best black stuff is all about Descend, your removal spells that are also permanents going into your graveyard, some graveyard recursion out of black, stuff like that, and white doesn't really play on that same axis. Pick number 7. I mean, obviously black-white is open with Bartolome, but that doesn't mean you should hop in. Because even when it is open, I don't think it's great. I would almost rather take a gem guard than one of the black spells. If I take a black spell, I think it would be not Bartolome. It'd probably be the Skullcap Snail here, so we can end up in like black-red or something else. But gem guard's pretty good. When you're putting a bunch of permanents on the board with cards like Plundering Pirate and Thousand Moon Smithy, it can be good in this exact archetype. It's super weak in like everything else, but all permanents all day should be a fine card. Pick number 8, Envoy of Okanekahau, Sandwing, Acrobatic Leap. 3 different, equally kind of filler cards. Grab the Acrobatic Leap. Nice little cheap combat trick. Well, the blue spells in this pack are by far the best, but Companion should work fine if we have a lot of Thousand Moon Smithy style plays. Okay, this pack is super weak. Really not a fan of Family Reunion. Take the black spell, I guess. I think that's the best card by a little bit there. Unlucky Drop is the best card by a little bit. We might take Hidden Volcano just in case. We want the tap lands for value. Alright. Not in love with our position here. But I've got a removal spell with a Petrify. Got a great rare, and I've got a good synergy piece with the Plundering Pirate. And now we just open up a red rare. Now we've got 2 great rares. Inti's insane. You get to put a +1/+1 counter on one of your attacking creatures every turn as long as you discard a card. And to pay you off for that, when you discard that card, you get to exile the top card of your library and play it until your next end step. So discard a card, play a land or a spell off the top, and keep just slamming counters onto the board, getting trample swings in. Inti is nuts and easily the pick. Pack 2, pick 2. Miner's Guidewing versus Sunfire Torch are the great picks here for this kind of deck. We've already got Ire, Petrify, and Leap. Let's get a nice cheap creature. Miner's Guidewing turn 1 into Inti turn 2 would be insane. Try to live in Magical Christmas Land. Pick number 3 in the pack is pretty empty. Inverted Iceberg is great. But we're not in blue at all really here. And then Cootseal's great for specifically green-white and green-white only. And everything else is mediocre, except sorta like Skullcap Snail can be fine, Final Strike can be fine. Maybe it's speculating on Cootseal here. We're deeper into white than red. Maybe we get pushed onto that if green's pretty open, but maybe blue-white as well. We saw some pretty decent blue cards going late, too. And I do prefer blue-white to green-white a little bit. And it'll also work better with our Thousand Moon Smithy. Blue has a lot more artifacts to sit on the board. I'll take the Iceberg here. I don't really want to take the Quicksand Whirlpool. Pretty mediocre removal there. While I'm happy to be in white, pick 4 Unstable Glyph Bridge. This is a huge bomb. It's not a complete board wipe. You have to leave your opponent with one of their power 2 or less creatures, and leave yourself with one of your power 2 or less creatures, but you choose their weakest creature with power 2 or less, and your best creature with power 2 or less, and then you also slam down a 5/3 flyer. So it's a board wipe and a threat to reestablish a board state after it wipes the board. Card is completely busted. We will take it pretty easily here, although I'd love to have a Wanderglyph in this deck too. Alright, pack 2, pick 5. Some more great blue spells with Oaken Siren and Master's Guide Mural towards blue-white craft. We're only 3 cards deep into red. Sunshot Militia would be good in this deck, but it is really looking like blue is a lot more open than red, so we maybe should take this pivot here. End up running a Pirate Hat. Take this Oaken Siren, and we'll see. I'll speculate towards it missing out on a Sunshot Militia to do so. Cogwork Wrestler super late with no great red stuff, so we take the Cogwork Wrestler. Just great ability at instant speed, being a combat trick. Leaving this body behind is great for craft cards and cards that like having a lot of permanents like Thousand Moon Smithy. So I'll grab that Wrestler. Okay, now it's just decent red. Tomb Raider and Sunshot Militia being the good cards there. Got like the Tomb Raider to go with the NT if we do end up sticking to red. And there's a Sunfire Torch pretty late. Okay, maybe red's more open than I thought it was. Now it's just a Pirate Hat out of the blue. Brackish Blunder out of the blue. There's no white or red here, so we take that. Sunfire Torch again. Okay. Probably do get there off of the red then. Unlucky Drop would be the card if we want to stick to the blue, but let's take the torch. These blue cards are bad now. Puzzle Door's fine for a craft deck. It gets an artifact in your grave pretty quick. Yeah, I guess I am still leaning a little farther to red, comparing these two colors. We're so, like, 100% locked in on white because of how good our bomb rares are. But red looks a little better than our blue here. And it actually looked kind of comparably open near the end, so it did look like these players are probably not in blue, but the blue definitely got scooped up later, so players on our right that are going to be passing to us this pack are probably in blue. Well, this will be a really easy pick, regardless of the whole blue versus red, or I guess red versus blue question here, because we've got an excellent white spell with Clay-Fired Bricks. It just picks you up another land in the early game to help you get to the 7-mana ability to flip it and buff your entire board while slamming down a couple more 2/2s. Clay-Fired Bricks is just great. Speaking of cards that are just great and are on color no matter what, Spring-Loaded Saw Blades is a removal spell that also flips into a sturdy, beefy vehicle for pretty cheap. So we'll take that over Spyglass Siren, which is another fantastic card, but it would require us having to pick between the red versus blue here. It would require us going into the blue, and I think we're slightly more likely to be red, and we're 100% in white, so we should just take the Great White Spell. All right, pack 3, pick 3. No good blue or red here, which is good for us because that means we get to easily just take a Petrify or a Vanguard of the Rose. I'm thinking we're in red, most likely, where we do need more cheap creatures on curve, but also removal-wise, just one Petrify, one Saw Blades, but we've got a board wipe too with the Glyph Bridge. And the Glyph Bridge works really well with Petrify. If I Petrify a 2-power creature and then I Glyph Bridge, I leave them with their petrified creature. Okay, that has convinced me to just run like no 1 and 2 drops just because Petrify into Glyph Bridge is kind of nuts. Oh yeah, I've got the double torch too. I've got a lot of interaction. Now we just need to take dirtly creatures over everything. So Envoy here for more creatures. It also works well with the whole getting a lot of permanence theme. If we run out of stuff to do, we just dump out gnomes. But it is pretty filler for its cost. Plundering Pirate's way better. Slam dunk, easy pick. Lodestone Needle, sad days. If we were in blue, that'd be the scoop up. Now, Thousand Moons Crack Shot for a 2-mana 2/2 on curve. Want more creatures on curve to go with the Inti. Need to find 3 more playables before we end this draft. Guess we can throw the Whip in here. It's real filler, but we're not going to run more than 17 lands here. So it's better than land 18, most likely. All right, Iron Paw Aspirant or Atali's Favor kind of counts as a creature too. Well, it could discover like a Sunfire Torch or a Dreadmaw's Eye or an Acrobatic Leap. We've actually got some cards that would be really rough to discover off the Favor. So I'm going to take the Aspirant. Now a Soaring Sandwing looks better than the Whip or the Daring Discovery. All right, Sunshot Militia or Enterprising Scallywag. Both are really good in specific positions, but kind of narrow. I think I go for the Militia. I don't think we're super good at triggering Descend. We don't have a lot of like discard a card, draw a card to do that consistently. Let's take the Militia. Pick 10 Yearling, let's go. That's going in here. I don't have any other dinosaurs, but a 2-mana 3/2 trample is a 2-mana 3/2 trample. That is well above the curve for its mana cost. I don't think we're playing Child, but who knows? There's a tiny chance. Alright, another Sandwing. I don't think we end up with 2 of these in the deck. But now we have the option. This deck really shaped up in the end. This looks very solid. Super bomby and plenty of interaction with double Petrify, Saw Blades, double Torch. Maybe we just cut an Acrobatic Leap, because I think even without the leap, like all the other cards I just listed is more than enough to interact with our opponent's stuff, and we have plenty of cards that really want us to play to the board and get a wide board state, particularly the Thousand Moon Smithy and the Sunshot Militia style cards, but even the Inti wants us playing a bunch of creatures early. I think we drop the Acrobatic Leap here, because the Clay-Fired Bricks, that's another card that wants us to have plenty of creatures on board, give everybody +1/+1. I think we're cutting a non-creature here, and out of all the non-creatures, I think that card is Acrobatic Leap. So cut that, call it a deck. Seems great to me. Alright, here's a look at our final deck list for today, and it looks like a sweet one. We're on a Boros Tapper strategy. So this archetype is focused around getting a lot of permanents onto your board. Then you can use them to put +1/+1 counters on cards like the Adaptive Gem Guard and get a bunch of damage in with cards like Sunshot Militia. So the biggest payoff for getting a wide board state with a ton of permanents in our deck is the Thousand Moons Smithy. If we can have 5 permanents on our board, we can tap all of them to flip this into the Barracks of the Thousand, that we can then use to just slam down way too many gnome tokens throughout the course of the game. So that's the biggest payoff for all of these cards that we're running in our deck, like Plundering Pirates and Cartographer's Companions, that are spitting out 2 permanents off of the 1 spell. But we've also got some great stuff working with those kind of strategies with our non-creature spells. Cards like Clay-Fired Bricks, Spring-Loaded Saw Blades, and Sunfire Torch are all going to give us some value basically right when they hit the board, and they're going to keep that permanent on the board for a while that we can tap to do other things while they still put in work. It's like the Saw Blades we played as a removal spell, and then we still have this artifact to tap later. The Sunfire Torch we can use as an equipment while still tapping it every turn to other effects. Lots of great synergies in this deck, as well as a great aggressive curve of creatures in general, with premium 1-drops like Miner's Guidewing and Goblin Tomb Raider, the great little aggro rare of Inti, Seneschal of the Sun, and some other good aggro dorks like Belligerent Yearling, Attentive Sun Scribe, and stuff like that. So really powerful looking, really explosive deck here that has a little bit of everything you want, a little bit of interaction, a little bit of synergy, and a little bit of bombs with Unstable Glyph Bridge, Thousand Moon Smithy, and Inti. Really hoping for the best here, but it looks pretty sweet, so we'll see how it all pans out for us as we head into the gameplay. Here we are with a great aggressive curve for game 1. We really need to not add any more lands here, ideally, because this is just turn 1, turn 2, and turn 3, and our first draw is a land. That's pretty unfortunate. But being able to start with Guidewing turn 1 into Militia turn 2 to guarantee that we have something to put the Explorer onto is super nice. I could Torch instead for 1 more damage immediately here, but I'd rather play around our opponent using removal, and I guess this is also still 1 more damage because of the Vigilance on Guidewing, so yeah, this is definitely better. It's the same amount of damage in this way. If they burn our Guidewing away, we'll still get to Explore when it dies. Wow, this hand's insane. We drew into Smithy and Glyph Bridge. Okay, seems good. So let's Sunfire Torch up the Guidewing. I don't know if I want to kill the Wanderglyph here. Opponent's stuck on 2 mana, so I probably should kill it. Which means attack in, crack the Torch. The one thing I don't like about this is giving us 1 less permanent to tap to the Thousand Moon Smithy, but this stops our opponent from discarding spells to try to draw into lands. And they're just going to concede right there, so kind of just a rough keep for our opponent, and having the removal for their potential card draw engine to stop them from drawing into the mana they needed was enough to get us the victory there. Not too much of a game, which is kind of sad because our hand was so explosive that I sort of wanted the game to go a little longer, but it's probably for the best that it didn't just lock in that victory right off the bat at 1-0 heading into game 2. Here we are now on the play for game 2 with a beautiful hand, Guidewing into the Aspirant to start beating down with a 2/2 Flying Vigilance, and when the Guidewing dies, we get to have the Aspirant explore, even if they immediately kill the Guidewing. Well, not immediately. If they go Swamp Deadweight, then we don't get to do the thing, and they played a Swamp, which scared the bejesus out of me, but they didn't have the Deadweight to go with it, so we will get an Explorer off of the Guidewing now when it dies. Do need to draw 1 land, but if we don't, we can always crack the Sandwing next turn instead of playing something. But there we go, we hit a land. I can get treasure off the plundering pirate. Just dump out whatever we need here. We've got a glyph bridge as a backup. But for now, we're in a great position to just keep beating down. Playing against a black deck, they could have the -2/-2 to everybody for a board wipe. That's all I can think of, though. And they just spent a 1-for-1 removal, so not super likely, and a 3/3 survives that board wipe. There is a rare board wipe they could have where everything gets -X/-X, where X is the number of permanents in their graveyard, but that doesn't do anything right now. They have 0 permanents in grave. So the rare board wipe doesn't work. There's a Breaches, which is a pretty good card. It's a first striker, and it does some stuff on attacks. I have no way to clear it out, because I don't have the mana for Glyph Bridge yet. So we also don't have a good way to block it. So let's jam in with the Guidewing. Then we will Plane Cycle the Sandwing so that we know we have the Glyph Bridge mana if we need to do that. And that'll allow me to also cast the Militia this turn and do a couple pings. Yeah, we're not going to have good blocks for Breaches no matter what because of that first strike, so let's just get the double ping in here. Put them down to 8. So they probably exile the top card. Look for some efficient removal off of their attack. But if they attack, they don't have that up on blocks, and Rumbling Rockslide is not efficient removal, so if they tap out for that, I'm pretty cool with it. Could Glyph Bridge just to kill a Breaches, or I can just torch up the Guidewing and play a Crack Shot in the same turn. That feels better to me. And then if Crackshot is still around next turn, we can tap down the first striking Breaches, so they don't have it up on blocks. And there's the concession from our opponent. Nice quick 2-0 to start things off as we head into game 3. Here we are for game 3. Pretty slow hand. We start off with Yearling. We play the bricks to get towards the Sandwing mana. On the draw here, I'll keep this, obviously preferring to draw non-lands. Find a Petrify, that's perfectly reasonable. Playing against green-black, that is an archetype that's really good at grinding out the long games. So the slower hand could be sketchy in this matchup. They're likely to have a better late game than us on average. But we've got a couple like late game bombs in this deck. Really, the quality of our rares has taken us a long way if the game goes long. Alright, not going to get Tomb Raider to beat down unless we petrify the Kincaller. Yearling for Kincaller is a fine trade. But now that we know we have a Glyph Bridge coming later, it's probably not the worst thing in the world to drop a Petrify here. Because we can just Glyph Bridge all of their gigantic creatures really late in the game. To guarantee we get some damage in here. I don't know, I'll just offer the Yearling trade. See if they want to do that. They do want to do that, that's fine too. And we'll go nice and slow with the clay-fired bricks. Well, I probably do cast Tomb Raider this turn, so I'm being mana efficient. Even if I don't get haste value, since I couldn't send the 2/2 into the 3/3. Alright, Force Cycle the Bristleback. That could mean two things. One, which is most likely, is that they just need more mana. The second could be that they have Graveyard Recursion in their hand to reanimate this, and that would be terabad for us. Technically, we should probably play the revealed card first, but I want to make sure I've got double red, even if they make me discard 2 or something. Because then I just discard Plains. If they cast like 2 copies of Skullcap Snail, something really narrow that's not likely to happen, but who knows? Maybe it will. You know, a 1-for-1 Glyph Bridge doesn't seem horrific to me, honestly. We play this, we kill the spider, and we get to flip into the 5/3 quickly. We still have a Petrify follow-up, then we have a Sandwing next turn as well. I'm just gonna 1-for-1 them here. Clear the path. I guess this is craft with artifact, not craft with creature, so I have to flip the, I have to exile the bricks to the glyph bridge for that. Plundering Pirate is the draw. Tomb Raider for Dart Frog is super fine. So 7 mana next turn. I need 8 to do what I want to do. So I think I just Sandwing. I want to be able to play the pirate and then also like flip a glyph bridge, exiling the treasure instead of my clay fired bricks, but I'm a mana off from doing that because it's 5 to flip this, 3 to play this. I'll have 7 and not 8. But I could play pirate plus petrify next turn, setting up to flip either of these the turn after that. And there's a seed stone, just make a beefy frog. Well, here comes petrify then. Cash in some damage. This locks down its mana ability too. Ooh, hello. That is a beautiful draw. Yeah, even if they blow up one of my cards, I'll still have enough permanence. If they blow up 2 of my cards, I won't have enough permanence to flip the smithy next turn. Unless I, instead of attacking in, just play a pirate for now. This might be an abrade. Nope. It is not. Could be wrong, but I'm going to play around Skullcap Snail, so I don't have to ditch pirate. Being able to craft one of these with an artifact being my treasure token instead of an actual artifact does feel very valuable to me. Alright, I've got 5 permanents, so we're flipping a 1,000 Moon Smithy here. And then we cast the Glyph Bridge. Now that would cost a clay-fired bricks. I don't want to cast the Plundering Pirate without using the Barracks of the 1,000. That's the awkward part. It's a 5/3 flyer, better than buffing my whole board. I think I have to do one of these and exile the other one. Guess it plays poorly against a board wipe, but that's it. And now they do have the mana for the board wipe. Could be spooky. I'm gonna flip clay-fired bricks here. It's gonna make this gnome soldier like way too big. Or I could just exile the gnome soldier, I guess, but I want to keep that out. This is an artifact land? It is. I'm not exiling that, though. Alright, I'm just going to get the super mega wide board state so our gnome soldiers we make off barracks are insane. Might have been a fine turn to just do absolutely nothing to play around the board wipe, the Fathomless Descent card. But yeah, if they don't have the board wipe here, this should be the craziest thing we can do. Just flip Kiln. There's no universe in which they attack here. Yep, no attack. Pirate off of the barracks. Get another gnome soldier. Have a mega big board. Shoot in response, sure. So no attacks this turn then. They're down to 1 card left. And just start flipping seed stones for blockers, I imagine. So we're all in on the gnome soldiers. That's going to be our only attackers. Just keep trading into a 7/7 each turn. We have to hit creatures or artifacts, but as long as we keep hitting those, we're going to get a 2-for-1 every single time. Right, like cast a Plundering Pirate and get a 9/9 each time we do it. So I think despite green-black usually being favored in the endgame, with a flipped barracks, we're favored in the top deck war. On average. It's not a great start to it, but... think we do still send in the gnome. Maybe not. Maybe we're not supposed to send in a gnome until I have a summoning sick gnome. Just so we know they can't get in for any damage here and we have plenty of time to draw into what we need. What we need being literally any of our creatures or artifacts. There's like 20 spells left in here that are all fine. I guess the Sunfire Torches don't work with this. Because while they are artifacts, they cost a single red, so that won't work. But let's see, Guidewing, Sunscribe, Ironpaw Aspirant, Saw Blades, Crackshot, Inti, Militia, Cartographer's Companion, Envoy, Plundering Pirate, and Gem Guard. So 11 out of the 20. More than half of our deck is great with this. And there's plenty of other cards. I didn't list like Petrify, that would be fine, but they just don't trigger the Barracks of the Thousand, the Sunfire Torch, the Dreadmaw's Ire. Like 15 or 16 non-lands in here out of the 22. Also, like, 5 lands, so we could hit that too, I guess. Creature of the Schism, that's a fantastic rare. Luckily we've got a decent board state against it. We just trade a Plundering Pirate into it. But it gets great value every time it attacks. But it's going to give them a 1/1 lifelinker in this position. Because we have 4 more life than them. Gained a lot off these Jadeheart attendants. Well, here comes the tricks. What is this, +3/+3 trample? I might just lose for hitting like 3 lands in a row. Because if it is like the +3/+3 trample trick, then like if we don't block, we just die, and if we do block, they kill the gnome. Makes it a 10/10 with trample. So they win that, trample over, and deal like 24 damage still. Yeah, this kind of sucks. And then, yeah, every trade that I make makes my board state smaller for the future gnomes. Well, that's incredibly bad. I'm just going to hope it's nothing and block here and take 14. Because if it is the trample trick, I think we lose no matter how I do this. Because if I lose more creatures to trade into these Jadeheart attendants, then this is going to die because it'll lose power and toughness. So if I do this and then I double block here, even if they don't have the trample trick, I'm losing this and this and this, and I'm down to 2/2/2s against their board state, so. Down to 11. Could be post-combat removal. That'd also be bad. Okay, it isn't. Well, maybe. Still more spells. Tendril. You. There's a Petrify. Not exactly what I wanted here. But I shut off the activated ability, which is really important. So we do that. Still looking for artifacts and creatures. Again, there were like 11 out of the 22 that are excellent draws. They're playing off the top as well. Send in the Preacher. They get to draw a card now since they did a bunch of damage to me, which is not good, but at least I still trade 1 creature into that. These were the 2 cards I mentioned that don't work with the barracks out of all of our artifacts and creatures. Still buff the gnome, which is something, but that is sad. Better than the land. Better than the land. We'll take it. So I just do this. Make a gnome big enough to trade into a kin collar, if nothing else. So sketchy. They got no tricks and this goes great. If they've got a trick, we just lose, but that's gonna happen regardless. Ghost Combat just deadweight a gnome? Sure. Alright, deck. I've had like 11 incredible outs for like 4 draw steps in a row now. I need one of them right now or we lose the game. I'm glad that's good enough, but that's not one of the 11 cards I've been talking about for centuries right now. I am begging for creatures and artifacts that I can cast off barracks, please. Alright. If they have 2 combat tricks, if they have a combat trick in hand and then they top deck a combat trick, they kill me here. Combat trick to save the frog and then top deck the trick to kill me with the extra damage. Okay, that's one of the cards that goes with the barrack. So I can plop down a blocker at instant speed. How I wish that Dart Frog was tapped. Nothing I can do about that, right? Nope. Okay. Two, 3, 4 permanent. It's gonna be a 5/5. I think I do this. Oh, a 6/6 actually. All right, there we go. Now we'll just hit some of the 11, just all in a row real quick. Mega helpful. Now we actually have a torch engrave for craft. That was getting so sketchy there when we were really looking for the creatures and artifacts to cast to drop the gnomes down. I mean, but you can see, like, as soon as we hit 2 of them in a row, it's just completely lopsided so quickly. That's why things were so sketchy and so frustrating there. It's like, I just know there's so many draws in my deck that can just instantly flip the board state just right back massively in our favor. It just took us so long to find them, but find them, and then the game ends in like 2 turns. Just boop, it's over. So got there eventually. Real spooky stuff though, overall. But still, yet another victory. No losses yet. We are 3-0 heading into game number 4. Just riding on through off the back of some incredible bomb rares yet again. Here we are for game 4. On the draw, solid aggressive curve with a yearling and a crack shot. Dreadmaw's Ire, if they're on an artifact deck, that'll be incredible, and most decks have some artifacts in them. And then we've got the Glyph Bridge if the board state starts getting out of hand and in our opponent's favor. They're a green deck, which is the only color that doesn't really care about artifacts at all in this set. Green and black are the least artifact heavy. Green by far is the least. But black also doesn't have too many artifacts. They are green-blue, so they're probably going to have some amount of artifacts off the blue cards, but looks like for now just generic green-blue Explore. River Herald Scout exploring into the Nikanzeal Current Conductor. Next turn we get to bash in with the Yearling, offering the Dreadmaw's Ire to trade into their creature. Preferably they play like a 3-drop here that makes a map token, so at least we like kill a map token with Dreadmaw's Ire if they force us to do it. Oh, but they're just not going to play anything. They're just going to chart a course to try to draw into lands, and they did. They found a forest. Do they have a scout in hand too? They've got a 1-mana play here? They have a 1-mana play they chose not to play. For a single colorless or a single green, I don't remember this format well enough to know what they have here. Maybe it is the 1-mana 1/1 that explores, but they want to wait till they play the Current Conductor to do it? That actually makes a lot of sense. That might be what it is. So this turn they're going to play Nikanzeal as well as the Scout. The 1-mana Scout, not the 2-mana Scout. Deep Fathom Echo. That explores every single turn all by itself. Okay, this is starting to look like an unstable Glyph Bridge game. So I need to stop playing creatures with more than 2 power. I could cast Inti here, and Inti would survive the board wipe. We're really looking for land 4 or 5, though, so I should probably cycle the Sandwing and play Inti. In which case we don't want to discard a card to the Inti if I do that. So maybe just cycle the Sandwing, no attacks, rather than inting somebody up to 4 power. Sure, yeah, let's cycle the Sandwing. Play a Crack Shot and save the NT for post Glyph Bridge. The post Glyph Bridge world. Now we just want to get our opponent to just dump everything onto the board and then try to soak it all up with our Glyph Bridge. We kill everything except our Crack Shot and their River Herald Scout. Because Nikanzeal is going to put counters on itself. And we can trade off our 3/2s pretty aggressively since they'll die to our board wipe no matter what. Alright, Battle Glyph. Echo explores into a forest. It's going to be basically impossible to just win off of this one-sided board wipe because they're going to have so much value off this Deep Fathom Echo. Just drawing them extra cards like over and over. Pirate dies to the Glyph Bridge anyway, so we take this trade. Hope they cast a 2-mana 3-power creature. They do not, but I think we still need to Glyph Bridge here. The Nikanzeal Echo combo is pretty gross, and they'll hit us for a lot next turn. We're killing 2 pretty premium cards with our 1 spell that also turns into a creature later. This is a perfectly reasonable use of our turn. Yeah, we do it. They've got 3 cards left after this. That's the only part I'm a little concerned about. But it's definitely very good on this board state. Casual little 3-for-1. Spend 1 card to kill 2 of theirs, and also we're going to get a 5/3 flyer out of it. Inverted Iceberg. Alright, that'll reestablish a board state, but that Dreadmaw's Ire plays super well against that. We'll have to craft our treasure token to get the flyer here. Water Wind Scout. That's a great card to kill with our Dreadmaw's Ire. So our Dreadmaw's Ire is going to kill their Water Wind Scout by trampling over and blow up the iceberg, which will be beautiful. So we attack in. If they block, we Ire. If they don't, we flip the Glyph Bridge. They almost definitely don't block here, though. But it's not like holding up a 2-2 against the 1-1's going to do anything for us. Alright, removal for the Wanderglyph. They still don't get to attack this turn, and we still have a 1-1 to trade into the Scout. So Wanderglyph almost turned into a 4-for-1 if it actually gets to trade off into a 1-1. It killed 2 of their creatures, it got rid of one of their removal spells, and it might trade into a creature on top of that. Okay. What now? We're still going for Dreadmaw's Ire value, right? Do we NT it up for Trample Swings? Discard the Cartographer's Companion. I could also just Militia Cartographer's Companion and start tapping. They're down to 13 and we've got Dreadmaw's Ire looking great. But they're going to have a 6-6 blocker if I don't end up Iring here, and then it's a lot harder to get damage in with Dreadmaw's Ire once they have a 6-6 up on blocks, because I don't have any flyers or evasive threats. Yeah, I think I need to get enough power on this board to be threatening Dreadmaw's Ire to blow up the 6-6 before they have a 6-6 up on blocks, and then they can just block and I don't get to Ire profitably. Alright, did I play land for turn here? I don't know if I did. Hopefully not. I think I did, though. Because I think I didn't have a second red source out yet, but I needed one to be able to play NT and hold up the Ire. Alright, we know their hand is just an island, so this is going to be completely disgusting. Probably game-ending. Kill both the creatures, trample over, and kill the iceberg. They only have a Waterwind Scout, and they're drawing into a puzzle door here. Oh, we didn't play a land. That's so good. Let's get the companion down then. Axe Draw. Lots of great Explorer in their deck. But yeah, just cannot compete with incredible bombs. This time the unstable Glyph Bridge really winning us the game. But the Dreadmaw's Ire being a 3-for-1, killing 2 of their creatures and their 6-6 potentially. Dreadmaw's Ire was a big, big help in the game as well. NT, I don't think was really that relevant, but NT was definitely there. It's another great rare. We are now 4-0 heading into game number 5. Undefeated still. Here we are for game number 5 with the bomb rare in hand again. This is a great Glyph Bridge hand because we've got the Sunscribe that we can play out to start scrying through, making sure we hit our 5th land, and the Sunscribe will stick around on board after we cast the Glyph Bridge. The Tendril of the Myco Tyrants. Could Dreadmaw's Ire into trading into that, or Sunscribe trade is fine, because that won't die to the Glyph Bridge anyway. So if they just trade here, we get to drop the Crack Bridge. I think I can draw a 5th land, even if I ditch this one on the bottom, and I really don't want to draw a 6th land, so I'm going to put that on the bottom here. Okay. I think I'd rather Sawblades the Tendril than cast Crackshot here when I have Glyph Bridge in the hand. There's a Scout. Another card that could survive the Glyph Bridge. They're going to mill the Staggering Size, since a revealed combat trick is significantly weaker than an unrevealed one. If we trade Sunscribe for Scout, not only is that going to let us cast the Crackshot without it dying to the Glyph Bridge, but it'll also fuel the craft for the Sawblades, since we'll have an artifact in our grave. Okay. I think I'm just going to flip the Sawblades then, rather than playing anything here. more mana efficient, and it's a nice beat stick, a 5/5 to crew up. Really hoping our opponent stops playing 2-power creatures at some point. Because they really only get to keep one 2-power creature, so if I just didn't kill any of the 2-powers, then one of them would have died to the board wipe later. Alright, we're 1 mana away from the Sandwing, but for now we'll just beat down with a Chariot. And that is a super reasonable use of our turn. It's a lot of damage. So it probably draws an Abrade from our opponent, if they have one. It doesn't look like they do. Slam in for 5. They're down to 13. Pretty great spot. Rampaging Ceratops, that's beef. Probably worth it to Dreadmaw's Ire through that if they block. And if they don't block, that's cool too. The one part that makes me a little bit sad about this is the fact that we don't get to play Sandwing in the same turn. But I didn't want a Glyph Bridge for just one creature again, even though it would be a reasonable play because both our threats on board survive the Glyph Bridge. Okay. I could combat trick into killing the Chariot, but the most common combat tricks are going to be +3/+3, where we'd still trade into the Yearling. So I think we do... Hold up. I think we cast Sandwing, and we crew this with the Sandwing, and then we attack with both of these. Then if they don't have the combat trick, we still hit for 2... Or we trade here and hit for 5. If they do have the combat trick, they can clear out a crack shot for free, but I think that's fine. It's not for free, it still costs them a card. They spend the combat trick and no longer have it in hand for later. Alright, trade Yearling for crack shot, maybe? Nope. They are going to Staggering Size. Alright, so they've spent the Staggering Size. They no longer have that to try to trade up into something bigger like our Chariot. Panicked Altasaur. Can block our Sandwing. There's a Lore Keeper. That is an insane draw. Because now I can crew this. Yeah, they're over it. I was going to say I can crew the Chariot so that I'm attacking with a 4/6 in the sky and a 5/5 on the ground. And the only way for them to kill something is to double block the creature on the ground with a 4/5 and a 3/2 or a 4/5 and a 1/1. So then we kill the reach creature with the Chariot and hit for 4, or they bounce there and chump block the Chariot. And either way, we get to draw a card because we discard this mountain, and then if we draw anything with mana value 4 or less, we cast that as well. Inti was a real nasty draw, and we just still had the Glyph Bridge backup. Super gross game of Magic there. We are now 5-0, guaranteed in the money out of this draft. But we'll see if we can't keep it up. Maybe get our first 7-win run in a while. Really break this loss streak pretty heavily with a 5-0 run, even if we lose some games after this. This feels real nice after our 0-3s, 1-2s, and... Or sorry, 1-3s and 2-3s we've been having lately, so... Real happy with this, whatever happens from here, but... See if we can't get a nice clean 7-0, just really flip the table here. Swap things around from how things have been playing out early in this format. Well, not the format, this season, the December ranked season. Alright. Not the greatest hand in the universe, it's pretty high on mana. But it has powerful late game here. Flipping a Clay-Fired Bricks, now it's even stronger late game. We play Militia first. Don't think it particularly matters the order. We play Militia first and we hit like a 3-mana creature. Then that's better than if we had played Bricks and drawn a 3-mana creature. But it doesn't matter, we don't draw creatures, so we just poke them with Militia and play a Bricks post-combat. Could also have played the Bricks and just tapped Militia and Bricks rather than attacking with Militia to make it safe from stuff that shoots attacking creatures or tapped creatures. I might have done that if our opponent was on white, but out of green-red, I don't think they can like flash in a 3/2 or anything to eat our Militia. But white certainly can. They have deal 4 to an attacking creature. They have deal 5 to a tapped creature with cards like Sawblades. 1, 2, 3, 4 permanents. We're not going to have enough permanents on board to flip the smithy, but it's still definitely going to be good. We're definitely attacking in. If we can pull out an Abrade on a Sunshot Militia, that's so much better than if they Abrade our smithy itself or the gnome, either one. Oh, I should have tapped. I forgot to use Militia. It is sorcery speed. It's a very good card, but it is a sorcery speed card, so we missed 1 point of damage here. Tapping these two was definitely the play. If I play 1 permanent, then this eats Colossadactyl. Let's just not forget to do this immediately. So I could just play an instant speed Sawblades just to eat Colossadactyl up, because I don't think they're going to have any tapped creatures for a while anyway, so we might as well like Combat Trick here to eat it. Okay, they're not going to block, in which case we just hit for 4 and then hold up the Sawblades. Still a Combat Trick for us later. Or it might actually be a removal spell. I don't know why they would, but maybe they will attack with Colossadactyl. If they do, I'll just take the damage, because I don't want to end up trying to Sawblades it and then them having a Staggering Size or a Dreadmaw's Ire in response. Aww. Do this before the Colossadactyl's tapped, so I can't Sawblades to save it here. They kill our Crackshot Armor Militia? Wait, what? They're planning on blowing up another one of our permanents? They must have Dreadmaw's Ire or something here if they're doing that. So we kill whatever they Dreadmaw's Ire and win the game. GG! Let's go. Yep. All right. That is 6-0. We are 1 victory away from an undefeated 7-win run. I think this deck can definitely get there. As we said during the deck building, it just has everything. It has a solid curve, it has the removal spells you need for interaction, and it has many bombs. See if we can't keep drawing excellent cards as we have been before, because our deck is loaded with them. See if we can get a quick victory in the 7th round. We are 6-0, heading into the final boss with 3 rounds in the chamber. Here we are for hopefully the final game of Magic with what is unfortunately a pretty unkeepable hand. We hit any land and we get to pirate for 1 white source, but I think there's too much risk here for an opener on the play. This hand is definitely better. With such a good 4-drop in hand, I think I ditch the Gem Guard. Torch into Yearling, into Smithy turn 4. Hoping to hit 1 land and some cards that make multiple permanents. Those would be the best draws in our deck. Plundering Pirates and the like. Cartographer's Companion would be a really good draw when we have a Smithy coming up. Not generally the craziest card ever, but for this hand, we could absolutely use it. We hit the 4th land, so now we are looking for those great non-land spells. Opponent starts just immediately abrading the Yearling, fair enough. We find a Tomb Raider, not a bad draw at all. Not a bad draw at all. As a non-land we immediately get to beat down with, I will take it. Playing against Jund over there. There's the Armored Kincaller. Okay, well, We don't draw removal, we lose. That's kind of just what Bone Horde Dracosaur says. Flying, first strike, 5/5 at the beginning of your upkeep. If your opponent didn't draw a removal spell, they lose the game. It is about time we get bombed out ourselves. But this does not look good. They're 2 lands away from that Dracosaur, and if it resolves, this game is over. Alright. They just play a land and Dracosaur next turn, and RIP hopes and dreams of the 7-0 run. And our petrifies don't even work. They don't stop at the beginning of their upkeep ability. Like, we have to draw, like, our board wipe specifically at this point. It's already a 3-for-1. Actually, a 4-for-1. Because they get the Dracosaur, the Dinosaur, draw 2 extra cards. Jesus Christ. I think this is my first time actually playing against this card, but I've read it many times and been like, yeah, that's completely unbeatable. And yep. It sure is. Well, that's not going to do it for us. Boneyard Dracosaur is now a 6-for-1. It's giving them 6 cards worth of value, because a 3-1 counts as a card worth of value. I guess if I don't lose any permanents, I can eat one of their creatures here. While maintaining my board state. Can't make a 1/1, so I make 1 blocker here. I block the 5/5 and 2 3/3s and take 9. Yeah. Well, that was literally just entirely Boneyard or Bone Horde Dracosaur's game. But it was about time. We've been bombing people out with some games that they didn't get to do too much in. Now, that game was just completely unwinnable. Really no decisions for either player the whole game. It's just opponent casts Dracosaur turn 5 and we die. Not much else to the game. 6-1, heading into round number 8, balancing things out a little bit for our great luck early. About time that we get bombed out ourselves. Here we are for game number 8 on the draw with a super reasonable opener. Tomb Raider into Sunscribe, beat down for 2 on turn 2. Just have 2 different 2/2s on board. Just keep saying the number 2. Compass Gnome. What are you grabbing, opponent? Do they have a cave to plop down, or are they just getting another untapped land so they can play a 3-drop turn 3? It is going to be a cave, a hidden cataract over there. I am perfectly fine with Goblin Tomb Raider for Compass Gnome trade, so I'm going to go for the Sunscribe over the Sunfire Torch. Plenty of lands in our hand. We're definitely not cycling the Sandwing. Ooh, hey, Inti. 1 mana off from doing what I want to do, which is to kill the Waterwind Scout and play the Inti. So I think I just kill the Waterwind Scout here. Just a great flying body for early in the game. And we get a Scry as well here. ditch land 6 because we have 3 more draw steps to hit land 6, so that land is likely to turn into land 7, and we don't need a land 7. Another Waterwood Scout. All right, premium commons, let's go. We juice that thing up. We'll see what the Explorer hits. It is a landmark, which isn't a super great card, but it's a non-land, and that's the important part. So, Inti, ditch a plains. Inti, discard a mountain. If I hit a land, I can play that off the top. If I don't, I play Guidewing or whatever spells on top if it's 2 mana or less. Yeah, ditch a mountain here, I think. So we have double red and double white. Alright, it is a plains off the top. Good hit. And now we've got a Plundering Pirate to cast as well. Perfectly reasonable card. They take the trade. Did not actually expect that, but I'm cool with it. We've got an Artifact Engrave to craft this thing, so they can get the 1/4 flyer. But again, that's not a super great body. Really needs other cards to be good. You gotta have this stuff to jump into the sky alongside it. I guess it can block Guidewing, but with the Inti on the board, we get to buff up the Guidewing to get it out of range. Now that we have an Inti on board, we're probably just discarding like every land that we draw, so... Unless we keep exiling lands off Inti, I don't know if I'm trying to cast this Sandwing anymore. Because next turn I'm ditching the plains and casting whatever we hit. Ooh, Helping Hand. Pretty nice here. 1 mana to get a tapped Waterwing Scout on the board, get another map token. Does not seem bad at all. Sunbird Standard for some mana fixing. They can also exile a bunch of stuff from their grave. They only have 2 colors of cards, so they can get a 2/2 flyer off this later. Better than nothing for sure. Yep, send in the squad and buff the Guidewing, I think. Cast whatever we hit off of Inti to keep getting value. Well, we do keep hitting lands, so we might actually play Sandwing next turn. I guess I've got the treasure to do it no matter what, so if I top deck a land, I discard that, and if I hit nothing I want off Inti, we cast Sandwing instead. Board state's looking good, but I am running out of cards. So they could absolutely catch up. They have a lot of card advantage over there. They have 2 caves that they can sack to discover, which is going to cast another spell, basically put them up in card advantage. They also have a Sunbird Standard they can flip into a creature. So the Standard gets to work as a mana rock for a while and then also be a creature later. So that's another potential 2-for-1 from our opponent. These map tokens get to set up their draws. They are going to keep a Song of Stupefaction. Oh, and there's the Zoetic Glyph, another piece of card advantage, a 5/4 that's going to end up trading off while also discovering that Song of Stupefaction for free. Oh, hello. I was considering not attacking this turn, but if I hit a Dreadmaw's Ire, I think I do. We send in the Pirate, so we have a 4-power creature, so even without the Dreadmaw's Ire, it looks like we're just trying to trade, and then with the Dreadmaw's Ire, we go crazy. And what's pretty cute about Inti is if I Planescycle with the Sandwing, I can cast it from exile, but only for this turn. I think it's better to discard it to Inti to get the +1/+1 counter. Yeah, we only get the +1/+1 counter with the attack discard, but we get the exile off of any discard. It's interesting. Hit an Iron Paw Aspirant. Super fine card to hit. Dang. Was hoping for the other block around. That would have made this really good. But I think it's still fine here. They're just discovering a Song of Stupefaction to put on Inti or something. It's not great. Just blow up the landmark. There's like a 1/4 here. I guess because I'm not actually saving anything, it's not that good to Dreadmaw's Ire right now. If it got it to 6 toughness, it'd probably be worth it, but doesn't get it to 6 toughness. Alright, cool. Stupefaction the Guidewing. They are gonna mill too. Here's the Aspirant to buff the Inti, so I can declare an attack with a 4/4 Inti next turn. Might have been okay to put the counter on the Aspirant, because if they ever hit removal, they're going to use it on Inti anyway. And even a 2/3 is big enough to attack in with the Dreadmaw's Ire in hand. Spring-loaded Saw Blades. If they double block Inti, I can Dreadmaw's Ire and clear their board, but then we're both playing off the top. They discard Saw Blades to do that. Go for it. They single block, they just lose the game. Alright, cool. Not literally, but figuratively, this is like a massive turning point that can lose them the game. If the Dreadmaw's Ire gets to keep Inti on board and clear out their 4/4. And it did get to do that. Kellen. So they've got 5 power and 6 toughness over there. Envoy better than a blind draw. If I'm going for a blind draw here by attacking it with Guidewing and letting it just die to the scout, I think I just drop this. Because we're not attacking with a 5/5 Inti into this board. So this way, if I keep discarding cards and exiling into lands, I at least get to keep making 1/1s. Oh. Well, I'm not discarding cards. That's for certain. I can turn the board into just a River Herald Scout and an Iron Paw Aspirant. Don't think that's actually worth it. Probably just saving this for later. Okay, it's starting to get more worth it. I don't know if there's even a point to making a 1/1 because they're just going to also die to the board wipe. Petrify makes Glyph Bridge really nice because we can blow all but one of their creatures up, and then I still have a Petrify left for if they top deck into anything. I lose the Inti for this, but it feels worth it at this point. Well, no attacks for the Aspirant. Now we're just going to flip a 5/3 flyer and kill them with that. Do I have an artifact engrave? Yes, I do. Multiple. Go for speed here, get the pirate down too. Next turn they flip a 6/6. I petrify and hit them for 8. Unless they draw something better than just playing a 6/6, which is possible. They keep looking at that card, so they might prefer that to a 6/6. Maybe not. They have to decide which is better, and they're going to go with the 6/6. Ooh, wow, Sunshot Militia's a draw. And there's the concession from our opponent, carried by some massive bombs. Super, super happy with this draft. Obviously, you cannot be unhappy with a 7-win run. Little bit disappointed to get one loss in the middle there. Obviously, it's still a 7-win run. It's max prize out, but I am trying to get to the top 1200 Mythic and hopefully stay there by the end of the season. We're really close to the end of the season here at the time of recording, but I don't know if 1078 is going to stick at top 1200 long enough. I might have to play a few more games off screen to stick to top 1200, but I think we can get there. I think we can maintain this. By the time this is edited and uploaded, it's probably right at the turning point of the season, like the 30th or the 31st or something. So I think we've done it, though. I think we'll probably be top 1200 every season this year. Just load up on those play-in points every time. Feels good to get out of our huge loss, or huge loss streak, lose streak, whatever it's called, that we've had lately, and get a sick 7-win run with a busted deck. Yeah, I mean, we rode off the back of those rares a lot. There were very few games that we weren't casting at least one of these rares, but statistically speaking, I think that's going to happen when you've got 3 different ones. Yeah, I mean, the non-rare cards all played perfectly fine. We couldn't really win games like crazy without our rares, though. We really needed these kind of powerhouses to get there, but we had 3 of them, so it was worth it. And that's why we played these colors. So yeah, pretty lucky draft all around, getting so many explosive cards, but we also picked up interaction pretty highly to have plenty of that. We have great synergies in the deck with tokens and cards like Sunshot Militia. I think this deck is pretty well built, about as good as we could have gotten it in our seat. Sure, there are a couple pretty filler cards, mainly just like Crackshot, Envoy, and Iron Paw Aspirants. Gem Guard's a little filler, but I think good in this deck. Companion's a little filler, but I think good in this deck. Yeah, for the most part, this deck is pretty dang incredible. And not too much to say. I think we drafted it out, played it out pretty well, but also got monumentally lucky in that draft pod, getting all these incredible rares. But that is going to end today's video. As always, I'd like to thank my patrons and YouTube members for their support, as well as you for watching this video. If you enjoyed this video and are interested in seeing more, you can always like, comment, and subscribe to tell the YouTube algorithm to send you some more in your recommended feed. If you'd like to catch me live, you can check out the Twitch channel in the link in the description below. And if you'd like to support the channel directly, you can check out the Patreon link in the description below. But other than that, as always, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you again soon for some more Magic Arena.